It's late at night on the 30th of December 2000. He is browsing the internet whilst licking ice cream from a paper cup. He has just eaten some melon and the barley tea is still warm. He takes his time going from site to site, relieves himself in the bathroom and moves past the family he has just slain. The Miyazawa family from Setagaya, Tokyo. Mikio aged 44, a businessman, his wife Yasuko aged 41, a school teacher, their 2 children, daughter Nina aged 8 and son, Ray aged 6, never stood a chance and would never get to welcome in 2001. The year is 2000. We are in Japan, Setagaya, a tranquil suburb of Tokyo, once an area with up to 200 homes in the 1990s. Setagaya was a different story by late 2000. The Miyazawa family were only one of 3 occupied residences in the suburb, with plans to move out in the new year. Generally speaking, the area was quiet, there were hardly any residents. However, there was a skate park near their home in Stagaya Park which was becoming increasingly busier. Mikio would from time to time challenge unruly teenagers who would stray close to their home. He also had run-ins with the local Basazoku biker gang because their customized bikes were loud. The family lived in a large property which was converted into 2 homes, one half occupied by the Miyazawa family and the other half by Yasuko's mother, Asahi. The 31st of December 2000. Asahi had been calling her daughter Yasuko all morning. Despite living next door, she would not go into her daughter's house unannounced. After trying in vain to get through to her daughter and noticing that the family vehicle was still outside, she started knocking on the door. It was strange that the house was quiet, and for some bizarre reason her daughter, her grandchildren, or indeed her son-in-law would not open the door. Asahi went back to her home, grabbed the keys to her daughter's place and opened the door. What greeted her was an image straight from the darkest recess of the mind, sheer horror. At the bottom of the stairs she sees the blood-covered body of her son-in-law, Miko. He had numerous stab wounds around his neck. He is dead. In a panic, Asahi bolts up the stairs where she encounters the bodies of her daughter and granddaughter drenched in their own blood. With the blood pooling at the top of the stairs, both mother and daughter's body were covered in numerous stab wounds, again both dead. Dazed and confused and now moving at an alarming rate, Asahi hopes to find her 6-year-old grandson Ray. He is in his bed. No blood, but Ray's life had been robbed of him. Asahi realizes that he had been strangled. The police are called by a distraught Asahi. Police arrive and walk into the home. The house was ransacked, a total mess. Personal belongings, including documents, were scattered throughout the property. Documents were found in the bathtub. There were also blood-soaked bandages. Had the assailant hurt himself? Robbery was ruled out early as a motive, as there was over $1,000 worth of Japanese yen in the house, and that money had not been taken. In fact, the only thing taken was the deceased Miko's jacket. Police believing the reason being that the killer left his own blood-drenched clothes and took the jacket as to not look too suspicious. Police believe they found the point of entry, the bathroom on the 2nd floor, where a mesh screen had been cut out. The bathroom was situated at the rear of the house and backed onto the park, with only a fence separating it. Police concluded that the assailant climbed the fence, cut the mesh of the bathroom window and entered here. They also found footprints in this area. The killer, once inside, walked quietly to the first bedroom, which happened to be the children's shared room. Ray was fast asleep. It was here where this 6-year-old child was strangled by the killer and his life was extinguished. It is then believed the father, Mikio, would have heard some commotion in his child's room and went to investigate. He was met by the killer at the top of the stairs, where he was knifed multiple times and pushed down the stairs, where he stumbles and falls to his final resting place. The killer now moves onto the 3rd floor and finds Nina and her mother Mikio asleep. The mother and daughter do not stand a chance as he starts to land blows. He realizes his knife's tip was broken when he killed Mikio, so he leaves and makes his way to the kitchen to get a different knife. The mother, mistakenly thinking the murderer had left, tries to save her daughter, but he comes back and kills them both. It is noted that the violence on the female members of the family was particularly brutal. Attacks on both mother and daughter continued long after they had passed away, prompting the police to think that the killer hated women. The killer had cut his own hand over the course of the killings and had used bandages from the first aid kit to stem the bleeding. These bandages were found in the bathroom. At this stage, any normal person would think that the murderer would want to put as much distance between himself and the crime scene. But the exact opposite happened. The murderer decided to stay a while. He helped himself to the contents of the family fridge, ice cream in particular, leaving fingerprints on the wrappers which matched up with other fingerprints that were strewn all over the house. He then calmly walks to the downstairs study and accesses Mikio's computer. Records show that the computer was first accessed at 1:18 on the morning of the 31st of December. This was just a couple of hours after he had slain the family. He was trying to buy theater tickets, but he did not know the security details. Strangely enough, he also visited websites that were bookmarked by the family. Throughout the night, the killer collected the deceased bank cards and IDs. It is theorized by the police that the killer was trying to ascertain the security codes for the bank cards. Unable to figure the security codes, the bank cards are no longer of interest. He then unplugs the phone and sleeps on the couch for a few hours. The computer was last logged on at 10:05 in the morning on the same day. By the time the police had entered the property, there was a treasure trove in terms of DNA and forensics. Both murder weapons, the knives, were left on the kitchen table. The first aid kit was covered in the killer's blood and Nana's blood. He had also left fecal matter in the toilet. Other evidence that was found at the crime scene were footprints that identified the type of shoe, the Schlesinger brand that was not even sold in Japan. It was in fact a model sold in South Korea. Fingerprints that could not be traced to any known or unknown person on the police database. Items of clothing belonging to the murderer. There was also a hip bag containing items such as skateboarder's tape, a neatly folded handkerchief, and cologne. There was also traces of sand that were identified as originating from the United States, specifically from Nevada, the Edwards Air Force Base. His blood-soaked clothes were folded neatly. The murderer's sweater had been purchased in Kanagawa Prefecture and only 130 units of the sweater were sold. Only 12 people out of 130 who purchased the sweater were traced and ruled out. Furthermore, the forensics team noted that the sweater the murderer wore was washed in hard water, traced to Korea unlike the soft water in Japan. The knife the murderer purchased was also purchased in the Kanagawa Prefecture. The feces left in the toilet bowl was also from the killer. So who was he? Despite the overwhelming DNA evidence, the best the authorities could come up with was that the killer was of mixed race. They determined that his father was of Eastern Asian descent, Korean, Chinese, or even Japanese descent. It was easier to accept and hope that this beast was not Japanese, one of their own countrymen. Even though the Korean police helped with the investigation, they too could not find anyone on their database matching the DNA profile. The idea of a foreign killer was sold to the Japanese public. It was more palatable, and the focus moved to profile of a Korean killer. The fact remained that behind the scenes there was also a possibility that the killer could have been a first or second generation Japanese-Korean individual. Now the hunt was on for a mixed-race person of Japanese-Korean descent. They widened the net to a Korean-Chinese-American mixed-race person. Despite their best efforts, working with the expat communities within Japan, no matches to the DNA or the fingerprints were ever found. Frustratingly, despite their DNA haul, the police still could not find the killer, so they started looking closer to home. Was there someone within the Miyazawa family or friends that were bearing a grudge and wanted to kill them? Again, they found nothing, only that the family was well liked with no known enemies. The only time Miko would ever get upset was when people in the nearby park were being too loud, and he would confront them. But that would not have been a catalyst for the family to be slain in such a barbaric fashion. Still drawing a blank, the police devised a plan by piecing together reports leading up to the family murder. August 2000, police received reports of animals being mutilated and killed in the park right next to the family home. Police found the individual responsible for the killings of the animals, a local bank clerk, and ruled him out in their investigation. December 25, 2000. 6 days before her demise, Yasuko notices a vehicle parked in front of their home sporadically throughout the day and mentions it to her father-in-law. December 27, 2000. An unknown person who was wearing the same outfit as the suspect is seen walking near the home. December 29, 2000. People report a man acting strangely whilst browsing through stores at the Seitagakuinmi train station, in the same type of clothing the murderer was wearing. It is in one of the stores from this area he purchased a sashimi knife, the only one sold in the store that day and one of the known murder weapons. December 30, 2000. A neighbor sees the same man again snooping around the victim's home. He gives police a clear description of the suspect wearing a gray woolen hat with a black stripe, a black Uniqlo jacket, a multicolored scarf, a hip bag, gloves, long-sleeved t-shirt, and white Schlesinger shoes. A majority of the items were found in the Miyazawa residence by police after the murders. 7 p.m. that same evening. Yasuko phones her mother Asahi to let her know they were back home. 11 p.m. Raised voices are heard by a neighbor who was out for his evening walk, citing that it sounded like a couple arguing. 11:30 p.m. Asahi and her other daughter who was visiting from London hear a loud thud from the adjoining property. They thought nothing of it and continued watching TV. The witness reports seeing a male walk swiftly away from the Miyazawa residence. December 31, 2000. 70 miles north of the victim's home, a man walks into a medical center. He is treated for a deep laceration on his hand, so deep in fact that the bone in his hand was exposed. Whilst being treated, he was unusually calm and did not seem flustered. The staff at the medical center found this behavior to be unsettling, strange even. The man left without giving his name and any details. The staff told the police that the man appeared to be in his 30s and was wearing jeans and a black down jacket. Several months had passed since the information from the medical center was examined. Much time was lost. Shortly after the murder, a taxi driver gave police a statement saying that his fare that evening were 3 men he picked up near the Miyazawa home. They were too quiet and one of the individuals was wounded, leaving a bloody stain on the rear seat. 22 years later, with many officers and detectives who have been assigned to the case, a suspect is yet to be apprehended. What the authorities do know about the suspect is the item of clothing he was wearing. They also know that his blood type was A. He was right-handed, about 5 feet and 6 inches tall, between 30 and 40 years of age. Police believe that this individual is not a Japanese citizen based on several factors. DNA indicates his ancestry is Asian via his father and European from his mother, and it has a marker much more common in Koreans and Chinese people than in Japanese people. The shoe size of the brand he wore was not sold in Japan. Investigators have not found a match for his fingerprints on any Japanese driver's licenses, passports, or other government documents. Grains of sand found in his hip bag are believed to have originated in the southwestern U.S. This is still an active case in Japan today. A lot of opportunities may have been missed. It's bizarre that in a country like Japan one would think that simple technology such as CCTV would have been good enough to capture the murder, or at the very minimum various government departments working together. Perhaps if the clinic where the individual went to have his hand tended to on the 31st of December had alerted the police sooner, or the neighbor who saw the suspect twice, had he just taken a picture or called someone, who knows? Having covered a lot of true crime stories, what affects us the most is when children are involved. Lives taken before they reach their full potential. What a waste, what a shame. We hope the family of the victims get closure and that the Japanese authorities get their man. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Although we cover real-life stories of a dark nature, remember, life is what you make of it, and all it takes is a hello to get a conversation started. Always speak to someone about your concerns, and share your worries. Seek good company, and always take care of each other. Until next time.